The Ship of Theseus. Picture yourself standing at an ancient harbor, watching as craftsmen work on a weathered wooden vessel. The salt air carries the sound of hammers and saws as they slowly replace parts of this storied ship. One rotted plank at a time, one torn sail at a time, until, after many years, none of the original material remains. This is the Ship of Theseus, a puzzle that has captivated philosophers for over 2,000 years. It asks a deceptively simple question: is it still the same ship? Take a breath and let this question settle in your mind. The ship has served faithfully for decades. Sailors still call it by the same name. It looks the same, functions the same, carries the same proud history. Yet every piece of wood, every rope, every nail has been replaced. Materially, nothing of the original remains. But here's where the puzzle deepens. Imagine someone carefully gathered all those discarded planks, those old sails, that original hardware, and used them to reconstruct the ship exactly as it once was. Now two ships float beneath the same starlit sky, one maintained through continuous change, one rebuilt from original parts. Which one carries the true identity of the Ship of Theseus? This isn't just an abstract riddle about ancient vessels. It's about the very nature of identity itself. Consider your own body as you listen to these words. Your cells are constantly dying and being replaced. Your skin renews itself every few weeks. Most of your organs regenerate entirely over the course of years. The body you inhabited as a child shares almost no material with the body you inhabit now. So are you still the same person? What makes you? You. Is it the physical matter that composes you, the continuity of your experiences, the thread of memory that connects your past to your present, the story you tell yourself about who you are? The Ship of Theseus whispers a profound truth. Perhaps identity is not a fixed anchor dropped in time, but rather an ongoing story we carry forward. Perhaps what makes something what it is lies not in its material substance, but in the pattern, the function, the continuous thread of existence that flows through time. As you drift toward sleep tonight, consider this. You are both the ship that has been continuously maintained, growing, changing, healing, and the ship rebuilt from memories, experiences, and the accumulated wisdom of all your yesterdays. But if identity itself is so slippery, so fluid, what about the very words we use to describe the world? What happens when even language refuses to give us sharp, clear boundaries? That's where our next paradox begins to reveal the fuzzy edges of reality. The Sorites Paradox. Imagine yourself on a quiet beach at dawn, holding a single grain of sand between your fingers. It catches the first light of morning. This one grain certainly is not a heap. Now imagine placing it gently on the sand beside you and adding another grain, and another, one by one, grain by grain. At what precise moment does your growing collection become a heap? This is the Sorites Paradox, from the Greek word soros, meaning heap. It's a puzzle that reveals something unsettling about the nature of language and the boundaries we try to draw around our experiences. If one grain isn't a heap and adding a single grain to a non-heap can't suddenly create a heap, then logically no amount of sand should ever become a heap. Yet clearly, heaps of sand exist. You can see them, touch them, sit beside them. The paradox extends far beyond sand on a beach. When exactly does someone become tall? Is it at 511, 60, 61? When does a person transition from young to middle-aged? At 40, 45? When does evening become night? When do the first stars appear? When the sun disappears? When darkness is complete? Consider the moment of falling asleep, that gentle transition you may be experiencing even now. There's no sharp line dividing wakefulness from dreams. One breath, you're fully awake, alert to every sound. Next, your thoughts begin to drift. Then consciousness starts to fade. But when exactly did sleep begin? The transition is so gradual, so seamless, that it resists precise definition. This is what the Sorites Paradox reveals. Most of our concepts don't have razor-sharp edges. They exist in territories of gradual transformation, where boundaries blur and certainty dissolves into gentle ambiguity. Think about love. When exactly do you fall in love with someone? About expertise. At what point does a student become a master? About seasons. When does autumn truly begin? The first yellow leaf, the first cool morning, the autumn equinox. Language promises us precision, but reality prefers soft transitions. The world is built not on sharp divisions but on gradual transformations, each grain of sand contributing to an eventual whole that emerges not at any single moment, but through the quiet accumulation of change. Perhaps the real wisdom hidden in the Sorites Paradox is this: not every boundary needs to be absolute. Not every question requires a precise answer. Sometimes the truth lies in the gentle ambiguity between categories, in the recognition that the world is more fluid and interconnected than our need for clear definitions suggests. As you let your mind soften tonight, embrace the heap that has no clear beginning, the gradual accumulation of relaxation, breath by breath, thought by thought, until wakefulness becomes rest. And if words themselves can trick us, what about our very perspective on our place in the world? What if the way we see our own social connections is already subtly distorted? The next paradox reveals exactly that mathematical reality. The friendship paradox. Have you ever scrolled through social media and felt like everyone else is living a more connected, more vibrant life than you? Like your friends always seem to have more friends, more adventures, more of everything. Here's what might surprise you. Mathematics says this feeling is actually accurate. Your friends, on average, really do have more friends than you do. This is the friendship paradox, and it reveals something profound about perception, networks, and the hidden mathematics of social connection. The paradox works like this. Imagine your social circle. Some people in it are highly connected. They know dozens of people, attend every event, seem to be friends with everyone. Others are more reserved, with just a few close connections. Now, because the highly connected people know so many others, they're more likely to appear in multiple friend groups. They show up in more social circles, more photos, more conversations. This means that when you look at your friends, you're disproportionately looking at people who are above average in social connectivity. The quiet, less connected people who might actually be more similar to you are less visible in your social landscape. It's like standing in a crowd and noticing primarily the tallest people. The tall ones are easier to spot, more visible, more memorable. But that doesn't mean most people are tall. It just means tall people dominate your visual field. On social media, this effect becomes even more pronounced. The most active users posting constantly, sharing every moment, create the illusion that everyone else is living a more exciting, more social existence. But what you're seeing is a distorted sample. The quieter voices, the more private lives, the ordinary moments of contentment remain invisible. The friendship paradox teaches us something crucial about comparison and perception. That sense of social inadequacy you might sometimes feel. It's often based on a mathematical illusion, not reality. Consider the people you're closest to, the friends who truly know you, who you can call at 3 a.m., who remember your birthday without Facebook reminding them. These deep, quiet connections don't make noise on social media. They don't post selfies together every day, but they form the real foundation of a meaningful social life. The paradox reminds us that networks aren't just about numbers. They're about quality, depth, and genuine connection. The person with 500 online friends might feel lonelier than someone with 5 true companions. As you settle into rest tonight, remember, your social world might be quieter than others, but that doesn't make it less valuable. Sometimes the most meaningful connections are the ones that don't need to announce themselves to the. But if our perceptions of social connections can be so misleading, what about how we value things more generally? Why do we often overlook what's essential while chasing what merely sparkles? That's the riddle our next paradox explores. The value paradox. Picture two treasures sitting before you, a crystal-clear glass of water and a perfectly cut diamond. One sustains life itself, every cell in your body depends on it. The other serves no essential biological purpose, offering only beauty and status. Yet if you had to choose between receiving a glass of water or a diamond of equal size, which would be more valuable in the marketplace? This is the value paradox, also known as the diamond-water paradox, first articulated by Adam Smith in his Exploration of Economic Theory. It reveals something profound and sometimes unsettling about how we assign worth in our lives. Water is so abundant in most places that an additional glass has almost no monetary value. We turn a tap and it flows. We take it for granted. Yet without it, we would die within days. Diamonds, meanwhile, are rare and beautiful but utterly unnecessary for survival. You could live a full, rich life without ever owning one. The paradox lies in the disconnect between utility and how useful something is, and value what we're willing to pay for it. This disconnect shapes not just markets, but our entire approach to what we consider important. Think about this pattern in your daily life. The air you breathe is absolutely essential, completely free. The phone in your pocket is useful but not vital, probably worth several $100s. The relationships that sustain you emotionally are priceless, yet how much time do you spend nurturing them versus pursuing career advancement or material achievements? We live in a world that often prizes scarcity over necessity, novelty over reliability, status over substance. The diamond sparkles and catches attention because it's rare. Water flows quietly, unnoticed, because it's everywhere. This paradox extends into time itself, perhaps our most precious resource. We'll pay hundreds of dollars for a watch to track time, but we give away hours to activities that don't truly matter to us. We value the scarce vacation days, but not the ordinary Tuesday evening spent with family. The value paradox invites us to question our priorities. Are we chasing diamonds while taking our water for granted? Are we so focused on what's rare and valuable to others that we overlook what's essential and life-giving in our own existence? True wealth, the paradox suggests, might not be found in acquiring what's scarce, but in recognizing the abundance that already surrounds us. Health, time, love, beauty, the simple miracle of consciousness itself, these flow through our lives as freely as water, waiting to be appreciated. As you prepare for sleep, consider the essential gifts that require no purchase, no achievement, no struggle to obtain. The breath flowing through your body. The bed supports you. The quiet miracle of a mind that can rest. Sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we never. And if even our sense of value can mislead us, what about tolerance itself? Can a society that welcomes all voices survive if it welcomes voices that wish to destroy it? That's the delicate balance our next paradox explores. The tolerance paradox. Imagine tending a beautiful garden where every flower is welcome to bloom. You've created space for roses and wildflowers, for towering sunflowers and delicate violets. It's a place of diversity, acceptance, openness to all forms of beauty. Then one day, a new plant appears, one that grows by strangling other plants, that spreads by choking out everything around it. Do you let it grow in the name of openness? Or do you remove it to protect the garden's diversity? This is the essence of the tolerance paradox, introduced by philosopher Karl Popper in 1945. It poses one of the most challenging questions a free society can face. Can unlimited tolerance survive if it tolerates those who would destroy tolerance itself? The paradox seems to create an impossible choice. If a society is truly tolerant, it should welcome all viewpoints, all voices, all perspectives. But what happens when some of those voices call for the silencing of others? When some perspectives demand the elimination of different perspectives? Popper argued that a tolerant society must retain the right to be intolerant of intolerance, not as a contradiction, but as a necessity for survival. Just as the gardener must sometimes remove the invasive plant to preserve the garden's diversity, a free society must sometimes limit those who would limit others. But this creates a delicate balance. Who decides what counts as dangerous intolerance? Where do we draw the line between robust disagreement and genuine threat? How do we prevent the cure from becoming worse than the disease? Think about this in your personal relationships. In your family, your workplace, your community, how much negativity, how much destructive behavior do you accept in the name of being understanding? At what point does enabling harmful behavior actually harm the very people you're trying to protect? The paradox teaches us that tolerance isn't passive acceptance of everything. True tolerance is active, thoughtful, protective of the conditions that allow genuine diversity to flourish. Sometimes being truly tolerant means saying no to intolerance. It's like tending your own inner garden of thoughts and emotions. You can be open to different feelings, different perspectives, different aspects of yourself. But perhaps you don't need to nurture every critical voice, every destructive thought pattern, every mental habit that diminishes your peace. The tolerance paradox reminds us that boundaries aren't walls, they're garden fences that create safe spaces for growth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself or your community is to protect the conditions where genuine diversity can thrive. And if society can trap itself in such logical loops, what about individuals? What happens when systems create impossible situations where every choice leads back to the same problem? That's the absurd logic of our next paradox. Catch-22. Picture this. You desperately need to escape a situation that's harming you. But the only way to prove you need to escape is to demonstrate the very quality that shows you're fit to remain. The exit door is locked by the key you're trying to find. This is the essence of Catch-22, immortalized in Joseph Heller's novel, but reflecting a type of logical trap that appears throughout life. In Heller's story, military pilots could avoid dangerous missions if they were declared mentally unfit. But here's the catch. Anyone rational enough to request a psychological evaluation was demonstrating the very sanity that made them fit for duty. To be excused, you had to be crazy, but asking to be excused proved you were sane. It's a perfect logical prison. Every door you try leads back to the same locked room. But Catch-22 situations extend far beyond wartime fiction. Consider the modern job market. To get work, you need experience. To get experience, you need someone to hire you. To get hired, you need experience. Round and round it goes. Or think about credit. To build a credit history, you need credit. To get credit, you need a credit history. The system creates the very barrier it claims to protect against. These loops reveal something unsettling about many systems we navigate daily. Often, the rules aren't designed maliciously. They emerge from well-intentioned attempts to prevent abuse or ensure quality. But the result is a web that can trap the very people the system was meant to help. The psychological Catch-22 might be even more insidious. Consider anxiety. The more you worry about being anxious, the more anxious you become. The harder you try to fall asleep, the more awake you feel. The more you chase happiness, the more it seems to slip away. Or consider confidence. To feel confident, you need successful experiences. But to have successful experiences, you often need to feel confident. The very thing you need prevents you from getting what you need to get it. Catch-22 reveals the absurdity that can emerge when systems become self-referential, when the rules refer back to themselves in ways that create impossible loops. But recognizing a Catch-22 can be the first step toward freedom from it. Sometimes the solution lies not in working within the system, but in stepping outside it entirely. Finding alternative paths, reframing the problem, or simply accepting that some systems are inherently flawed. The real liberation from Catch-22 might be realizing that not every game is worth playing by its rules. And if human-made rules can trap us in such absurd loops, what about the mathematical universe itself? Infinity, it turns out, behaves even more strangely than broken bureaucracy. Welcome to a hotel where impossible things happen every day. Hilbert's Grand Hotel. Picture the most magnificent hotel ever conceived. It stretches as far as the eye can see and beyond an infinite corridor lined with infinite rooms, each one occupied by a contented guest. The "No Vacancy" sign glows in the lobby. Then a weary traveler arrives, seeking accommodation. "No problem," says the manager with a smile. "We're completely full, but we always have room for one more." This is Hilbert's Grand Hotel, a thought experiment created by mathematician David Hilbert to help us understand the strange and counterintuitive nature of infinity. Here's how the impossible happens. The manager simply asks each guest to move from their current room to the room with the next number. Guest 1 moves to room 2, guest 2 moves to room 3, and so on. In an instant, room 1 becomes available for the new arrival. But the paradox becomes even more mind-bending. Later that evening, a tour bus arrives carrying infinitely many new guests. Surely now the hotel must turn them away. Not at all. The manager asks each current guest to move to the room number that's double their current room number. Guest 1 goes to room 2, guest 2 to room 4, guest 3 to room 6. This frees up all the odd-numbered rooms, infinitely many of them ready for the infinite bus passengers. What makes this so profound is that it reveals how infinity doesn't behave like any number we're familiar with. In our everyday world, if something is full, it's full. Add one more thing and you have overflow. But infinity plus 1 equals infinity. Infinity plus infinity still equals infinity. This isn't just mathematical curiosity, it's a glimpse into the deepest structures of reality. The universe itself might be infinite. Space might extend forever in all directions. Time might have no beginning and no end. These aren't just big numbers, they're categories of existence that transcend our ordinary experience. But there's something beautiful in Hilbert's Hotel that goes beyond mathematics. It's a metaphor for abundance in a world that often feels scarce. What if generosity, like the hotel's rooms, could expand infinitely? What if knowledge, once shared, created more knowledge rather than less? What if love, given freely, multiplied rather than diminished? The hotel reminds us that some resources, creativity, compassion, wisdom, wonder don't follow the rules of scarcity. They expand when shared, grow when given away, multiply when distributed. As you settle into rest, imagine your mind as vast as Hilbert's Hotel, infinite corridors of possibility, endless rooms for new thoughts, dreams, and insights. There's always space for one more beautiful idea, one more moment of peace. But if mathematics can twist reality into impossible shapes, physics reveals something even stranger. Imagine a cat that exists in a state between life and death, neither fully one nor the other. Schrödinger's cat. In a sealed box sits a cat, along with a peculiar apparatus, a Geiger counter, a radioactive atom, and a vial of poison. The setup is deceptively simple. If the atom decays, the counter detects it, triggering the release of poison. If the atom doesn't decay, the cat remains safe. But here's where quantum mechanics turns reality inside out. Before anyone opens the box to observe what happened, the atom exists in what physicists call a superposition, both decayed and not decayed simultaneously. And if the atom is in both states at once, then the cat must be as well. The cat is both alive and dead. This is Schrödinger's cat, perhaps the most famous thought experiment in physics, created not to celebrate quantum mechanics, but to criticize its seemingly absurd implications. Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger was troubled by what quantum theory suggested about reality. At the microscopic level, particles don't seem to exist in definite states until they're observed. An electron can be spinning clockwise and counterclockwise at the same time. A photon can pass through two slits simultaneously. But Schrödinger wondered, if this is true for atoms, what about larger objects? What about cats? What about us? The thought experiment exposes the mysterious boundary between the quantum world and our everyday experience. At what point does the strange become familiar? When do possibilities collapse into definite realities? Some interpretations suggest that observation itself creates reality, that the act of opening the box doesn't just reveal whether the cat is alive or dead, but actually determines it. Your attention, your consciousness, might play a fundamental role in shaping what exists. Other theories propose that both outcomes occur. The cat lives in one universe and dies in another, with reality splitting into parallel worlds every time a quantum event occurs. In this view, there are countless versions of you, living countless variations of your life across an infinite multiverse. But perhaps the most profound implication of Schrödinger's cat is what it suggests about the nature of reality itself. The boundary between existence and non-existence, between possibility and actuality, might be far more fluid than we imagine. Consider your own life as you drift towards sleep. In this liminal state between waking and dreaming, you exist in your own kind of superposition, neither fully conscious nor unconscious, your mind exploring possibilities that may or may not become memories. The cat in the box reminds us that reality might be less solid, less determined, less final than our waking minds assume. Perhaps existence itself is more like a gentle superposition of possibilities, waiting for the right moment to collapse into experience. And if reality itself can exist in states of uncertainty, what about happiness? The next paradox reveals why the very pursuit of joy might be what keeps it just out of reach. The Hedonism Paradox. Picture planning the perfect evening. You've thought of everything: the ideal restaurant, the perfect playlist, the most comfortable clothes. You're determined to have an amazing time, to feel genuine happiness, to make this night unforgettable. But as the evening unfolds, you find yourself constantly checking. Am I having fun yet? Is this as good as it should be? Why don't I feel as happy as I planned? The harder you try to grasp the happiness you've planned, the more it seems to slip through your fingers like water. This is the hedonism paradox, the strange phenomenon that the direct pursuit of happiness often leads away from happiness itself. The paradox appears throughout life in subtle but persistent ways. The vacation you've looked forward to for months sometimes feels less magical than an ordinary afternoon that surprised you with unexpected beauty. The party you attend hopping to have fun might leave you feeling empty, while genuine laughter often emerges from the most unplanned moments. John Stuart Mill captured this perfectly. Those only are happy who have their minds fixed on some object other than their own happiness. Happiness, it seems, is shy. It appears as a byproduct of engagement, meaning, connection, flow, but it vanishes when directly pursued. Think about the activities that have brought you the most genuine joy. Were you thinking about happiness while you experienced them? Or were you lost in the activity itself, absorbed in a conversation, captivated by music, present with someone you love, engaged in work that mattered? The paradox reveals something profound about human nature. We are not machines that can optimize our way to contentment. We are meaning-making beings who find joy through purpose, connection, creativity, and presence, not through the direct pursuit of pleasure. This connects to why many meditation traditions speak of letting go rather than grasping. The more tightly you hold onto any experience trying to make it permanent, trying to extract every drop of pleasure from it, the more it transforms into something else. Even sleep follows this pattern. The harder you try to fall asleep, the more elusive it becomes. But when you stop trying, when you simply rest in the present moment without demanding anything from it, sleep arrives naturally. The hedonism paradox suggests that the deepest satisfactions come not from chasing happiness, but from forgetting about happiness altogether, from losing yourself in something larger, more meaningful, more connected than your own pleasure. As you let go of this day, notice how rest comes not through effort but through release, not through trying to feel peaceful, but through allowing peace to find you. And if happiness escapes our control, so does security itself. Sometimes our attempts to create perfect safety actually create the very instability we fear. That's the final paradox we'll explore tonight. The Stability-Instability Paradox. During the height of the Cold War, the world lived under the shadow of nuclear weapons capable of destroying civilization. Yet paradoxically, this terrible threat may have created the most stable period in modern history. The very weapons that could end everything kept everyone from using them. This is the Stability-Instability Paradox, the counterintuitive idea that sometimes our attempts to create perfect security actually breed the instability we're trying to prevent. The logic works like this. When major powers possess weapons too devastating to use, direct confrontation becomes impossible. But this very stability at the highest level makes smaller conflicts more likely. Knowing that nuclear war is off the table, nations might feel emboldened to engage in proxy wars, smaller aggressions, local conflicts. The paradox extends far beyond geopolitics into the intimate spaces of daily life. Consider relationships. The couple that tries to eliminate all uncertainty, all risk, all possibility of conflict often finds that their overcontrol creates the very problems they were trying to avoid. A marriage with no room for individual growth, no space for disagreement, no tolerance for change often becomes brittle, fragile, prone to sudden collapse. Think about parenting. The parent who tries to shield their child from every possible harm, every disappointment, every challenging situation often raises someone unprepared for the inevitable difficulties of life. The attempt to create perfect safety creates profound vulnerability. Or consider financial security. The person who hoards money out of fear of poverty might miss opportunities for growth, connection, and generosity that would actually create more security. The economy that eliminates all risk often eliminates the dynamism needed for resilience. The paradox reveals something profound about the nature of stability itself. True stability isn't the absence of movement, it's the ability to move gracefully with change. A tree that survives storms doesn't do so by becoming rigid, but by learning to bend without breaking. In your own life, notice where overcontrol might be creating fragility. Are there areas where your attempts to eliminate uncertainty are actually increasing your vulnerability? Where are your efforts to prevent pain from preventing growth? Perhaps the deepest wisdom of the Stability-Instability Paradox is this. Security doesn't come from eliminating change, but from developing the capacity to dance with it. Resilience emerges not from avoiding challenges, but from learning to meet them with flexibility, creativity, and grace. As you settle into sleep, notice how rest itself embodies this principle. You don't fall asleep by rigidly controlling your thoughts or demanding that your mind stop moving. You find sleep by releasing control, by allowing your consciousness to flow and shift and transform, trusting in your body's natural wisdom to carry you into renewal. As we reach the end of our journey through these 10 beautiful contradictions, take a moment to notice how your mind feels. Perhaps softer now, more spacious, more comfortable with uncertainty than when we began. Paradoxes don't exist to frustrate us or to prove that thinking is futile. They exist to expand us, to gently stretch the boundaries of what we thought was possible. They remind us that life is rarely simple, that truth shifts with perspective, and that the universe is far more mysterious and interconnected than our everyday logic suggests. From ships that transform while maintaining their essence, to cats suspended in quantum possibility, to infinite hotels that always have room for more, these paradoxes whisper that reality is richer, stranger, and more generous than we often imagine. But perhaps the most profound lesson isn't about any individual paradox. It's about learning to live comfortably with mystery itself. Not every puzzle needs to be solved tonight. Not every question requires an immediate answer. Some contradictions are meant to be held gently, like koans for the soul, reminding us that the deepest truths often live in the spaces between certainties. And maybe that's the greatest paradox of all, that in accepting what we cannot fully understand, we come to understand something more important, that wonder, humility, and openness are not signs of ignorance, but doorways to wisdom.